let's explore a journey that I call 3-2-1. So it's the journey of going from the perspective of three. What are those three things? Most people in this world, and we in the past, you before, we used to think that there is me. I am a body. I exist here, and this is how I am. This is all I am. And there is the world. There is the physical world, and it is what it is. It is unchangeable, it is large, it is powerful, and it controls me. I respond to it. The world has boundaries. The world has rules and limitations. The world has limited possibility. And I have to adapt and figure out how to survive in this world as best as I can. It is against me. And I really have to use my wits or my luck to hope that I can get by just good enough. That's two perspectives, me and the world. And then there is a third one. Most people suspect that there is something else. We don't really know what it is. It's some sort of, I don't know, some kind of spirit thing, afterlife, God, maybe there's something. There's a power. There's a source. Is there a force? I don't know, but there's a thing. And it's over there. It's probably in that direction over there. And it's quite a ways off. We don't know what it is, and we don't really know how it works, and we can speculate, but it's separate from us. The God is either watching us, or maybe one day when we die, we'll return to a location called the spirit world, or perhaps we'll go to a thing called source, and it is a place that we go to. Or maybe when we die, we become spirit in that place over there with that God over there, right? That is how most of life, whether it's religions or popular culture or just logic, science, whatever, that is how most of us perceive the world. I am a solitary, limited individual living in this world that is large, intimidating, fixed, and against me. And somewhere over there, there is something that is powerful, and it's some sort of energy and some sort of godlike thing over there. So there is a notion of three. And there's a self-awareness that I am one of those three things. However, in time, you start to realize that you are affecting the world. The world is not completely against you. You might actually have a little bit of a say in how this world works. You might have a say in your world. You might be able to, you start to realize that what goes on inside of here affects what you see in the world. You realize that, hey, maybe my choices have to do with the situations I find myself in. Maybe my presumptions give me the wrong perspective of what people are like. Maybe my fears lead me to find my fears again in the world so that I repeat the worst moments of my life over and over. You start to suspect that, and you say, oh my goodness, I think that the world has far more scenarios that I'm aware of, and that perhaps I am subconsciously choosing those scenarios. So you start to realize that's when those two things just sort of start to merge, and you realize perhaps what goes on inside of me, what I call me, has an influence on what I call the world. Eventually, you start to realize, hey, I think that my choices, my opinions, my decisions, my self-imposed limitations are coming from something inside of me. They're coming from my thought stream. And my thought stream is coming from things that I carry. And perhaps I'm carrying energetic scars. Perhaps I'm carrying filters, lenses that influence and distort what I see in the world. So you start to do the healing work, the shadow work, and you start to remove these things layer by layer, and you remove all of these things that are distorting how you see the world. And what that does is it reduces your compulsion to think about a certain thing, or it reduces the need for you to become unconsciously identified with the stream of thoughts that go through your mind. And when that starts to happen, you start to go, wait a minute. I perceive, I sense, I detect another layer of my being. Now that I'm finally blessed enough to not be able to not be completely lost in the identification with what goes through my mind, I detect that there's something beyond my mind. I detect that, well, for one thing, inspiration shows up from I don't know who or where. And then you realize, okay, who is this other thing that I'm detecting? I detect that I'm not a mortal body. I'm not only my logical intellect. And you start to detect what I call the higher self. It's yourself, but not the little human being with the flaws and the misconceptions. It's a higher self. It's a self that has wisdom. It's a self that knows a lot. It's a self that is not influenced by past pains or presumptions. It's a self that is open to ideas. It's a self that can figure out solutions to things. And then you start to realize, wait, this higher self or inner spirit, whichever word you want to use, I suspect that it might actually be connected to the Great Spirit, to God, to the ultimate level of consciousness that is connected to everything. So now you've gone inside and you have followed yourself inside until you find your true self. And then you find that, wait, there is no separation or skin. There's no boundary between the inner self and the supreme. So now the 1, 2, 3 things have been reduced to one thing. You start to realize that when did I influence the world? When I am aware of and perceiving through my pain, my lack, my hate, my resentment, my presumptions, then I create that. And when I rise beyond that, then I can detect another level of knowing, another level of awareness, another level of guidance. And this guidance not only can help me to create a better physical world or to imagine a better physical world and to strive for a better physical world, but all of a sudden I realize, wait a minute, this guidance is connected to the force, the actual energy that creates the world. The thing, God, that wants to create this world, that is able to create this world, is attached to, it is not separate from the source of guidance that is inside of me. When I allow myself to detect that guidance is always inside of me, and I can allow myself to detect that guidance when I remove my awareness from the things that are distracting me from it. So all of a sudden, there's this one thing that flows. You realize my mind and my thoughts affect the world. My mind and my thoughts can be affected by a higher level of consciousness. My higher level of consciousness can be affected by the creative force of the universe. And you just keep going back and you realize, oh my goodness, there's no boundary. There's no skin between any of those words that I have said. There's no point that you can point at and say, this ends there. The influence of this ends there. The influence of this ends there. And at that point, you realize that God, to use simple, large words that would be shocking if we hadn't gone through that whole step there. You realize God creates the world through you to the extent that you perceive and allow either a higher, purer, beautifuler consciousness or a collection of pains and fears. And God will allow you to choose which one of these things you want to do. And this creative force flows through you into your world, and it influences your world. After a while, when you start to realize this, you say, okay, how do I influence my world? Okay, I can choose a job that is miserable based on a fear that nothing better is available, or based on a self-perception that I cannot do better. We can see that. I can get into relationship after relationship that is with the same type of toxic person because somehow my mind has become fixated on that toxicity and I've been carrying it for decades. We can see that, right? That is how you choose in the world. That is how you get into situations. What if it's even bigger than that? What if there's a little bit of magic to it? What if it's not just a question of like choosing this or that out of what exists? What if by believing in something else, believing in another option, I can allow another option to be created? What if I can actually create new opportunities, new potentials, new scenarios? Not just choose between one that's really bad and one that's less bad and one that's much better. What if I can actually like build an option that didn't exist before? That's when the more you explore this process that I'm explaining, this oneness that I'm explaining, the more you believe it, trust it, allow it, surrender into it, turn into it, lean into it, and say, hey, could you really, can we really do this? The more you realize that none, even the limitations of possibility that you thought existed in the world, even those things aren't actually fixed. Every limitation, the workforce says that you cannot get such and such a job with your current qualifications. The government says that there's a law, a rule, a boundary, something that prevents you from doing something that you want to do. The banks say that you do not qualify for the level of money that is needed. This amount of capital is absolutely needed for the creation of this idea. After a while, you start to realize, wait a minute. What I'm looking at in the world, what I'm empowering with the power to tell me yes or no, or to draw boundaries and limitations around me, that is something that was created. It was created in the past, and I can carry it into the future and continue to create it. Or I can say, wait, maybe the creative force in this world, the force that creates this world, is willing and able to work with me to create a new scope of possibility, because I am trying to create something. I'm in the process of creating something that's not coming from my fear or my hate or my anger or my limited beliefs. It is coming from the level of consciousness. It is coming with clear guidance from a place that is influenced by the creative force. If the creative force is indicating that it wants to go in a certain direction, and if my clarity and purity of consciousness, the inner space has been cleaned up enough that I can detect that, then am I going to choose to surrender power to the perceived limits of the world? Or am I going to choose to say, God desires something, and therefore this thing can happen?